Hello again and welcome to another Mordian Glory Warhammer 40k video. In today's episode, I have got a spicy, salty meatball for your viewing pleasure. Because I am going to climb up on top of my soapbox and tell you why I hate the Warhammer 40k rules commentary. I don't mean to alarm you, but this video is going to be full of the hottest of takes and what are most likely poorly informed emotional stances. So brace yourself as I go on an off-the-cuff rant about something that I really probably shouldn't be this annoyed about. Good news, everyone! Warlord Games is now an official sponsor of the Mordian Glory channel. Warlord Games are the creators of the fantastic World War II game system Bolt Action, along with many other incredible tabletop games. And they have been kind enough to give the Mordian Glory channel an affiliate link. If you follow that link down in the description below, not only can you get your hands on some truly awesome models, but you will also be supporting the channel. A massive thank you to Warlord Games for supporting the channel, and now let's get back to the video. So let us begin by casting our minds back to those ancient days of 10th edition's launch. The 9th edition Guard Codex had only been out 3 months before it was taken around the back of the chemical sheds. No, I'm still not over it, but there was a whole bunch of excitement with the launch of the new edition. And at first it seemed like this was going to be a brave new world. We had the new app from GW with lots of free rules in it. That's good. We had all of the indexes for all factions being released at the same time. That's good. And we got the core rules ahead of time also for free as well. That's good. And GW even launched the edition with the rules commentary, which was a handy little document that helped people interpret the intention behind the rules. So if there was some ambiguity about a particular rule or a bit of an interaction, then the rules commentary was there to comment on the rules and help players understand what their intent was. It finally seemed like the impossible had been achieved. We were getting the yin and yang. We were getting the unholy alliance of rules as written with official rules as intended from our lords and saviors, Games Workshop. Now, don't get me wrong, not everything from a year ago was all Gucci. For example, the Eldar were running around fisting everyone with the fate dice, but there was hope because GW came out with some hot fixes. They brought out some changes to towering, they brought out some changes to Eldar, and we could see that whilst the game was barely even launched, it was barely out of the womb, it was still a glint in the milkman's eyes, it was barely a fetus, things were going in the right direction. Free rules, all available online, updates were being communicated clearly, it was a good time. But over the last 12 months, a lot has changed, and for every good thing that has happened, I think there has been a step backwards. I want to be clear, I do think that GW is doing a really good job with actually balancing the game. No, it's not perfect. Yes, there are going to be outliers, but there's this example that a lot of people use, and I'm just going to steal it. If you look at something like StarCraft 2, which has got 3 factions and isn't perfectly balanced. If you look at something like chess and it's got 2 factions and isn't perfectly balanced, Warhammer 40k has got 26 factions or something insane, and each one of those factions is getting a codex and multiple detachments, which allows them to play very differently inside that faction. So there's just so many different moving parts that fully balancing the game is going to be very difficult, and GW aiming for that Goldilocks zone of 45 to 55% is a very admirable goal, and one that I think they are actually doing quite a good job on. Yes, there's a bit of a treadmill, constantly changing. Yes, we've had a lot of changes recently with like back-to-back units on field manuals and balanced data slates, 100%. But that's not what I'm complaining about. That's not what I'm ranting about, okay? I don't mind the treadmill. I don't mind the churn. I appreciate that that is GW pushing for something which we've been asking for for a long time as a community. The number one thing that players ask, edition in, edition out, is balance. And they are getting there. So you might be thinking, well, Mordian, what the hell is this video even about then? Are you wasting my time, you card, you wholesome knave? Well, it's not the balance changes or anything like that which I've got a problem with. It's the way how the rules commentary has changed. And it is no longer a rules commentary. It is basically the advanced rules for 10th edition. If you look at the 10th edition core rules, there is approximately like 180,000 words, 160, 180,000 words in the core rules for this edition. The rules commentary now is over 120,000 words long. It is literally dozens of pages deep, and it no longer merely comments on the rules. It is no longer a rules commentary. There are full-blown rules changes. There are full-blown new rules being added into it. And what I really don't like is how the rules commentary is now changing things that were perfectly understood. And it is causing so many players to get rules wrong. And for me, that feels like the document is fundamentally failing in its job, because it's meant to comment on things to clarify. And if now it is making people get rules wrong, then it is just not working properly. I appreciate that I'm keeping this quite high level at the moment, so let's get down into the mud and have a good old fucking wallow in a bit of filth. All right, here's one example. The rules commentary has introduced brand new rules around pivoting. Now, pivoting very well may be a good thing for the game. I personally believe that it hugely advantages some models over others, whereas before it was very clear. If any point of the model moves, you take that movement off. So now you have an unfair advantage where models on oval bases can just Tokyo drift, spin around the battlefield. And players are getting it wrong because they're getting loads of extra bonus movement out of it and stuff. I've seen it on the tournaments already. I've literally had to be advised by other people at tournaments, keep an eye on this particular thing with pivoting, because lots of people are getting it wrong at the moment. And so you've got a rule which is completely new, which hasn't been added to the core rules. It has been added to the rules commentary. And people are now having certain models which can just spin around and do what they want, and other models can't do that. They're having to take off movement for pivoting. But before it was the same for everyone. Before it was equals. If your turret on a leave and rust moves, that cost you movement. If you turned your demon Primarch like Mortarion, and his wing moved when you turned, guess what? That took movement off. Because he has moved. His wings has moved. You've used some of his move characteristic. So it was a system which everyone knew. Everyone understood, it worked fine. And now we've got pivoting where some people get free pivots, some people don't get free pivots, and a lot of people who are doing the pivots are using it incorrectly, and it's causing issues. But you know what? I know a lot of people like the new pivot rules, and even I am impartial to the new pivot rules. So I'm not, people will start getting it right over time. Okay, fair enough. I'll give you that one. I do still believe that the pivot rules, though, should have been added to the core rules. Why were they added to the rules commentary? You're not commenting on how if it was added to the rules commentary, this is what it should have done. It should have said, when moving a model, if any point of that model moved, for example, a model's wings, for example, a Lemus's turret, for example, a tank moving on the spot, you must take into account the turn. You do not get to just turn the model for free. That's commenting on the rules. That is going into a bit more detail and explaining, like, look, these kind of like turns and all this kind of stuff, that is going to cost you movement. Be aware of that when you're playing. That is a rules comment. Adding in an entirely new mechanic, well, that should be in the core rules. So my issue with pivoting is not the actual mechanic itself, because I do actually quite like it. My issue is, why is it in the rules commentary? That's my issue with it. But on top of this, we then have the rules commentary fundamentally changing how certain interactions work. So this isn't a new rule being added in. This is something that everyone knew and understood. And then the rules commentary, again, for some reason, rather than this being an update to the core rules, this was added into this separate document, which is now becoming very bloated. And an example of this is some abilities now stack and some other abilities don't stack. So if you've got an ability like a Basilisk, which can cause you to be shaken, that doesn't stack. That ability adds a not really defined condition. If your ability applies a condition, like shaken or stunned or picking its asshole, then that can't be stacked. No matter how, apparently getting hit by one Basilisk shell is the same as getting hit by dozens of Basilisk shells. You can't be more shaken. I would think that if you are getting so rattled around by multiple Basilisks, that you probably are going to be really unable to move, right? But no, because for an arbitrary reason, this is a conditional ability, a conditional effect that can't be stacked. But being in the presence of multiple great unclean ones, well, they can stack their abilities because they're auras. So some abilities stack, some abilities don't stack. And it might, and as I've said, I'm not going to repeat myself, I don't think it's being applied evenly at all in terms of it making sense. And I know adding realism into a game about demons and space marines and all that kind of stuff is stupid, but still, it still creates that sort of immersion break, right? But my big issue is that this didn't used to work this way. It used to be very clear. The rules commentary wasn't required. It used to be, you can't stack abilities. That's it. You can't stack them. If you're in range of one great unclean one, then you -1 toughness. If you're in range of multiple great unclean ones, it doesn't matter. You -1 toughness. If you get hit by one Basilisk, you slow down a bit. You get hit by multiple Basilisks, it doesn't matter. But now the rules commentary has made it murky. They have made one rule for one and one rule for another. And again, similar to my issue with the pivot rules, this is starting to, I think, muddy the waters, and it was an unnecessary change. Like, everyone knew how things worked. Everyone knew how the abilities worked, and now they've changed, and so you do get these situations where people are like, oh, well, I can double stack Basilisk. It's like, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that. It probably comes up every other week in the live streams that I do. Oh, Mordian, can I double stack this? Oh, Mordian, can I double stack this? Because it's an ability. And I feel like, well, it's applying a condition. They're like, what's a condition? So again, everyone understood how it did work. People are now hearing that ability stack. They're not bothering to go and check the rules commentary because it's another document that's super long, so you have to like wade through it to try and find the one bit that you want. People just aren't bothering, and now they're just making mistakes. And again, my big issue is this isn't a comment on a rule. This is a change to a rule. So if it was a change to the rule, if and I have no issue, let me make something clear. I have no issue with GW updating and changing their rules. That is a good thing. If mechanic is not working as intended, or if something is overpowered and isn't right, or is just making the game unfun for a lot of people, then absolutely change it. But that change, if it is changing a core mechanic, a core rule, should be in the rules, not the commentary on those rules. But quite possibly the most annoying change to the rules with the commentary is the out of phase comment, the out of phase change. And I've got a really specific example of this, which I know a lot of people go like, Mordian, this is just a guard problem, but I bet you there's loads of other examples that other people have for other factions. But the issue I have is when an ability says you get to shoot like it's the shooting phase, and the rules commentary is like, but it's not the shooting phase. That really, really annoys me. Because like the whole point of this ability is like, well, I get to do this as if it were the shooting phase. I know it's not the shooting phase, but I get to do it as if it were the shooting phase. And what the rules commentary comes in and says is, but because it isn't actually the shooting phase, you can't do it. So a good example is tank commanders with death befitting an officer. Every single time I play in a guard versus guard matchup at a tournament, this comes up, and it's just so disheartening having to tell people like, I'm sorry, but it just doesn't work that way anymore. Like, I feel like I'm the dick when I've not done anything wrong. I've just had to like learn this the hard way myself. If a tank commander dies in close combat, you cannot use death befitting an officer, because even though death befitting an officer says on a 2+ you get to shoot, and that combines with the rule big guns never tire, which is like you get to shoot even if you're in engagement range, because big guns never tire says like in the shooting phase, but death befitting an officer is not in the shooting phase. You get to shoot as if it was your shooting phase, but you're not actually in the shooting phase because it's out of sequence, it's out of phase. Then you cannot use death befitting an officer, which means that tank commanders, you just run up to them, poke them in the fucking eye, they fall over, and this ability, you just can't use it. It's so frustrating, it's so annoying, and so many guard players get this wrong, and I do not blame them, because if the rules commentary didn't exist, then it would be perfectly clear. My tank commander has died, I now get to trigger my ability. Because I am a vehicle, I have big guns never tire, so even though I'm in combat, I still get to shoot. Perfect chain of events, which in the core rules works. But the rules commentary comes in and goes, let me just muddy the waters a bit, and changes something that totally worked, no issues whatsoever. It didn't comment on it, it didn't clarify anything, it actually made it less clear. But you know what, guys? As always, this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you think that I am just getting bent out of shape over something that really doesn't matter? Do you like the current way that GW is updating the rules and how they've evolved the rules commentary? Or do you find yourself agreeing with me and think that these kind of rules should be updated in the core rules and the commentary should be left as a document to help clarify things? Whatever your opinion, let us know down in that comment section. And if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.